Welcome to Between Data and Risk podcast. Today we'll be talking to James E. Miller II, businessman with an extensive C-suite experience, founder and CEO of the Vision Investment Group, about creating, communicating, and implementing a business vision. Stay tuned. If you're a business owner or senior manager, you probably had more than enough about all the wonderful opportunities awaiting you in the era of digitalization.
Whether it is big data, cloud, data science, or whatever buzzword is currently trendy.
If you would like to hear someone dissecting these claims and showing you what it actually takes to improve business processes, you're in the right place.
This is Between Data and Risk, where we discuss real-life examples of what works and what doesn't in the world of business operations.
Hi, I'm Artur Cognition Shared Solutions Chief Risk and Strategy Officer, and with me is my co-host, your friendly neighborhood data guy, Dr. Marian.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to this episode of Between Data and Risk. Today we'll be talking about business vision and bringing it to reality. And we're excited to have with us as our guest, James Miller II, businessman with extensive C-suite experience, founder and CEO of Vision Investment Group, who agreed to share some of his experience with us. Hello, James.
Hey, thank you for allowing me to join in.
Great to have you here. We've read quite a lot, and you've appeared in various podcasts. So we have prepared by listening to some of that. And you speak a lot always about a vision, having a vision for a business, and how it's important to actually develop the business. So let's start with discussing what having a vision for business actually means to you, and why is it important?
Right. And actually, I appreciated the questions that you've asked me in regard to vision, because what was really good is it helped me redefine some vision here as of late. So I went through your questions and I took notes and I pondered, and then I wrote some of these down so I could be very clear and concise today as we talk about vision, because it's such an extraordinarily important part of doing business. And so allow me to read some of that as I took notes. But the first question, what you were asking, was what is having a vision, for a business actually look like? And I thought that's a great start right there. That's step one. First of all, having vision provides clarity as to the sense of purpose of the business and those that work within that business. And once that vision has been cast, then you can establish the various goals that align with the necessary steps that must be taken in order to accomplish or fulfill that vision. So that term vision it's a waypoint. It's the directive for a company and the people within that company.
If I may, I'm sorry. I'm sometimes pretty cynical and grumpy, so apologies up front. Would you care to tell us? Do you believe that there is something like a vision? Because I've heard it a lot in my career, and I'm not, let's say, saying that I agree with it or that I don't, but I've heard a lot. It's like it's a company; its sole purpose is to make money, to bring profit. I think it started in 1970s when the shareholder value became like the ultimate goal. So how do you put the vision of the company? How does it weigh against the profit?
So to me, by no means is vision solely about the bottom line, about the profitability. Vision is and should encompass a more holistic definition, if you will, because we're talking about culture, we're talking about a company vibe, a statement of principles and beliefs. One may even argue that vision should incorporate an ethos with which you want to informally brand your business and your team with. So we're talking about a sense of purpose that provides an emotional ignition with all the parties that are involved. That's vision. Is And of course you want to have growth. Of course you want to have profitability. But what good is growth and profit if no one is having a good time? If the company is not a company worth working for? If people don't understand, your principles and your values and your meaning? And to me, all you're going to create is probably a heavy environment of turnover instead of enjoyment and being part of a true team of accomplishing specific tasks and goals.
Please tell me that there are some people who really listen to you and believe that, because I would love to work in a company where the top management has this sense of purpose and also creating this environment. I really like, we work a lot with processes, and but the processes are then realized by the people. Artur is a risk guy. I'm the data guy. I should treat people like necessary evil, standing in the way of my numbers. But we cannot stop ourselves from stopping and talking to people. I wrote a book about data mesh where it's about talking of data people and business people. That's the very foundation of it. So do you find the good ground for your work?
I do. And a lot of that comes back to one simple fact, and that is we are all humans and we are in the game of life together. No matter if we're in business or not in business, we're in this together. So there's a mutual understanding within our organization of no matter where you are at in this company, whether you've decided after high school to get an hourly job or have your master's and are wanting to be in a leadership position, we're all humans, all in this together. So why not be respectful of one another, rely upon one another, and just be good to one another? And it seems very simple, right? The golden rule of do unto others as you've have done unto you. But it truly has a lot of weight to it. And many companies and organizations have forgotten that we're just humans doing something together to reach a specific goal or task or a vision in this case.
So now that when you create visions, I mean we've worked with companies that have that we can't say they had much of a vision. We've worked with companies that had great visions, but we also worked with companies that they had a vision, but you listened to them sometimes and you thought, what were they taking when they had this vision? Because it's really something that they have a vision, but it has absolutely no connection with reality. How do you ensure that the vision is ambitious enough that it actually presents a challenge, but yet realistic enough that there is, people don't take you for an absolute, dreamer and cuckoo?
Well, I think there's kind of two things. You have to have common sense and a reality check when you're casting a vision. But Sir Richard Branson had a great quote several years ago, and he said something to the effect of, if your dreams are not big enough to scare you, then they're not big enough. And vision to me needs to have an encompassing challenge to it, but still be realistic. And the biggest part, though, gentlemen, is it comes down from leadership. So leadership must create a vision it's got to be believable. It has to be worthy of being accomplished, and it needs to evoke an emotional response to the people and teams that you're casting this vision to. If that team doesn't have a buy-in to your vision, then the likelihood of you realizing your vision is likely very low, or it's doomed from the beginning. And like I said, it must be believable, inspiring, and convincing. And there also must be a clear purpose in order for there to be a dedication from your team.
So you touched upon a very important subject, which I think we need to talk about in a minute, which is communicating the vision. But before we go there, I just wanted to ask you, because obviously anyone who will listen to us so far will be thinking about Simon Sinek and his Start With Why. How do you think that is the kind of the core and foundation of the vision, Start With Why, or is it something different?
Sometimes it's not a why at all. It's a what. You could say, why do we want a vision, or what is the vision? What is it that you want to actually accomplish? And again, going back to what we talked about already earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean company growth or company profitability. That vision is a living, breathing waypoint for companies and teams to be part of and to focus on.
So now that you have this vision, sorry, Marian, you look like you wanted to ask something. No?
I have, but I'm holding my breath because it's a risk-related question. I hope you will come up with it at one point.
Okay, fine. He's setting me these challenges recently. Now, I wanted to. So you touched on communicating the vision. So now you have the vision in your head, and it's very clear to you. And but you need to bring other people on board. And for example, I'm running a series of roundtables with startup owners who have this kind of issue that they have the founding team. They know exactly what they're doing. They know why doing it, how they're doing it. But now they need to grow, so they need to bring other people on board. And they hit a stumbling block because they don't know how to communicate this vision to others. How do you communicate this? If you had someone who knows exactly what they want to do, but they just don't know how to say it, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think the communication of vision also is part of the implementation process as well, because once you have the vision that is cast that you want to communicate out to the team, then you're going to have to take the steps to implement what's necessary to see through getting to vision or accomplishing vision. So first of all, you need to plan for that, right? You need to plan ahead. And again, being in business, most of us are in business. You put goals in places. You have specific tasks and action steps you're going to take place that you're going to implement in order to get to next phases of getting closer to your goal, which here is casting the vision and communication. I will tell you, it takes perseverance, and it takes practice, and it takes persistence. Because when it comes to vision, when you cast that vision to your team, it's just not you say it and you're done. It's not just hanging a placard on the wall. It's part of your daily life, right? So leadership has to actively be talking about vision, reiterating about vision, and keeping this fresh in people's minds. There's a statistic that tells us that for someone to understand something that has value to it, it takes them 8 to 12 times of engagement with that before they fully understand and realize what's going on. Vision is so extremely important, extraordinarily important for a business. So if we only communicate at one time, it's probably, hurrah, that sounds great. We look forward to getting there. And then it's going to fall off to the side. So it must be communicated at least 8 to 12 times very clearly and also passionately, making sure that you have a person who's running that team or leading that company that's casting the vision with passion, with excitement and energy, and that people genuinely believe in it.
Doesn't stop somewhere, because like the vision is something in my limited experience that should permeate through the whole company from top down to the shop floor. And if on every, like, is it the CEO who should communicate it to the bottom, or do you expect everyone to be an excellent communicator on level of the managerial and organizational structure? Like how do you see it? Because again, I'm maybe grumpy, but I've seen a lot of times that where there was a leadership which even had some kind of a vision, and pretty interesting ones, but 3 steps down, it was just KPIs and the questions about how doing this or that will improve my personal KPIs, with no connection to the bigger picture whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest thing there is, if they don't feel connected, then they probably don't feel part of the vision. And that's where I said earlier, for me, it's important that all different levels of team members are active and participating in casting that vision. They need to know that they have a buy-in, that their voice actually is heard and is part of casting that vision. But you're also going to have those people. I'll give you a very good example, if you don't mind. I'm doing some fractional work for a company called Space Intel, spaceintel.ai. So they do the artificial intelligence for facilities management of hospitals, restaurants, manufacturing, commercial development, and real estate, and so forth. And they were actually meeting with a company recently who has several hundred outlets across the United States, and I think in Canada as well. And this company was talking about how they feel that facilities management it's wonky, it's antiquated, they need new technology, and Space Intel had the perfect technology for them to make it easier. They would have a tremendous ROI on it, probably within the first week of implementation. But because old leadership and old ways did not believe in using virtuality and the virtual real world and using artificial intelligence, they said no. So there you have a mindset of doing something an old way that's now antiquated, but they didn't want to do anything different because that's what they did traditionally.
We know it. We are working with data and digital twins, and we sometimes encounter the situation where the good old ways and last 20 years we did it this way, or 30 years permeates. It's something which is.
So the question is how you overcome it, right?
Well, I think you try your best to overcome it, but you will probably find that there are still within human mindsets, those mindsets that may not be right for your team. The old saying about, you've got the school bus and you have the seats on the bus, but you need to have the right people in those right seats. And unfortunately, we do have times where team members aren't going to support a vision or be part of what the company culture is because it's really not the best place for them. And it may be time for them to take a look at other,
places in the bus.
Right. Take a different bus.
Fishing.
Yeah.
Right.
So the vision kind of maybe we've already spoken about this a bit, but I just want to reiterate this. So apart from having a vision for some profit, for some growth for a company, is a vision about we want to change the world, because you've spoken about the culture within the company. You want to have a specific culture, you want to have a specific ethos, but what is the company for? Is it always we want to change the world in a specific way?
Well, I mean, you could want to change the world, but which world are we talking about? Every team could have their own vision and their own idea of the world that they want to change, whether it be culturally, whether it be a profitability, whether it be a threshold on sales. For those in the tech world, it's creating something new that other companies or other organizations have never seen before. Just recently, I was reading an article about the possibility of using 3D concrete printing to colonize the moon. And there's probably many people says, well, that's never going to be possible. We'll never be able to do that. That's far-fetched. At the same time, if you don't have a visionary putting out these challenges, then no one's going to go after that challenge.
We would be still on the trees, chasing, bananas probably, if no one would think of, putting, I don't know, a stone to the stick and throwing it.
But I have a 3D printer next to me, so that's actually a very good, very example close to my heart. So now, bringing this to life, in one of the previous episodes, we've kind of came to the conclusion that for every visionary CEO at the head of a company, you need a COO next to him who will be a down-to-earth guy who will take this vision and actually state it in realistic terms and make it operational, right? Mm. Is that kind of the
Do you
paradigm
agree with that?
Yes, in simple terms. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree that that's probably the norm. That doesn't mean that we can't break out of that mold, though, and do something completely different. What if you took leadership along with some of the I'll say new entry level people that have it could be with your company for 5 years or 20 years down the road, and get an idea from them with brand new perspective, and especially if they're a younger part of the millennial or Gen Z tier, to get their perspective of what should be the vision of the company.
So there are multiple ways of building a vision, from what I understand. So it doesn't have to be a CEO who is the sole source of the vision, which is pretty nice when it comes to all this collaborative efforts, which I observed, in example, in a software development, self-organizing team want to be self-organizing and choosing their own fate, so to speak. But still, we are pretty down to earth process guys. So, like, having a vision is good, or as you say, necessary, or desirable. Now, what's your take on making it happen? Are there better and or worse? Because having you can have a good vision, you can even communicate it, but without ability to execute it, it will remain just that. Most of the times, of course, what we discuss is always some sort of a distribution. So there will be a company and a single example where the guys without any plan, they actually went to the moon and they printed the houses. Okay, fine. But 99% of the companies, they will need some way to operationalize the vision. Do you have any advice on that? How to approach going from the vision to operations?
Yeah, so I mean, there's obviously a natural flow, and there's two parts to that too. So first of all, we talked about earlier that your vision just can't be a placard on the wall. It has to have life and it has to have breath to it. And if it's implemented properly and effectively, it is a living, breathing organism by which people place their trust in and their hope in. And it also relates to company goals and in achieving various successes as defined by those same persons. So that vision may not necessarily have a grandiose statement that affects, operations or the operations team. But again, it's more than the numbers. So why not incorporate within an operational side of the business a vision that coincides with and matches up to the overall company vision?
In data governance, we use something which is called value statement, where there is a reference point for decision making and prioritization. I guess the vision has the similar role of, as you said, this is the direction, this is where we are going. So if you can make, I don't know, a bit more maybe profitable way there, or a bit less, but leading us closer to the vision of 3D printing houses on the moon. I love it. Or making a new house, the mousetrap. I don't care. This is like the direction. But still, there is a roadmap. You can take highway or shortcut. But you need to make a decision. For the shortcut, you need to buy a horse, I don't know, some food, drink. For a highway, you would probably prefer to have a car. You need to decide also, not only that you want to get behind this hill, but you need to make operational decisions. And I'm thinking, like, do you think that whose role it is actually in the company? As you mentioned that the vision can be created by young people or by CEO or by some committee. There are multiple ways. But do you have any thoughts on organizing the making the vision come to life?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the implementation process. So, I've got some some of the key identifiers for me is obviously starting. You start with identifying what it is that you and the team want to cast as a vision. Then you want to determine what's the purpose or the answer or achievement that as to why you're putting this vision in place and sharing with your teams. And I think one of the biggest things is test the vision. You just don't want to have your leadership putting the vision together, but you want to go after other variants within the organization and asking their input to see if they would have a natural buy-in. Because if you don't get the majority of the people within your organization buying into the vision, then it means nothing to them. And that vision truly is everything. And another thing, too, as you're going through that process is once you've implemented vision, make sure you are going back and measuring its effectiveness and to ensure it continues to be relevant. Because once you cast a single vision, I don't believe it should be the same always. I think otherwise you can become very stale with your vision. And that's where as the company evolves, as the people within the business, new people come in and have different mindsets. If we take a look at our economic climate, our social climate, what our customers expect from us, that vision will have to change.
Now you're speaking Marian's language, because it's obviously metrics, is data, and he's the data guy, and
There you go.
I'm very surprised that his eyes didn't light up, but it's that
I'm
that
thinking,
time of the day.
I'm just thinking because I'm thinking, how do you measure the vision? If it's coming back to what you said about Sir Branson and his words, like if you want to 3D print the house of the moon, you need to measure if you have a house on the moon. There's the question is, the breakdown, the technical breakdown. If you need a rocket, I don't know, to actually get the parts there or anything, it's a bit different. However, I actually want to bite on your piece of bone and come back to the risk question. Like, we are talking about how realistic the visions are. Do you think that vision should have embedded analysis of the risks related to its realization, or it shouldn't bother itself with, okay, let's not worry if the rocket will blow or not. Like, we want to build a house on the moon, and is it a part of the vision, or is it something that should be considered later, like on this operational side? I'm just trying to figure out, because when we are talking about the operations, we have a pretty clear structure. We have the process, we have decisions, actions, we have data supporting decisions, we have risks related to actions and decisions. And now you're talking about integrating vision into all of it. And I'm trying to define this vision and its boundaries. Where does it really drive operations? Where it's just pointing the direction, and when it's how detailed it is, and maybe I'm a bit too down to earth, but this is my thinking. I'm sorry. I know that I'm not fully consistent, but I'm just trying to untangle the vision and see it as a whole.
Right. Wow. Well, you're speaking like a true analyst. Thank you for that.
Apologies.
Well, yeah. Vision is, I think the thing about vision is it's like a dream, right? It's you set your sights for what you really want to do and what you want to accomplish and what kind of culture you want to have and so forth. And you're constantly striving to get there, to be there. And if you actually do accomplish it, if you're like me, I'm one of those who, okay, I just accomplished it. Well, now I have to do better, or I have to do more. I have to go to the next step. Because to me, if you don't stop continuing forward, that's where the staleness comes into an organization or a business and can cause a lack of growth, whether it be growth of leadership or growth to the bottom line. but you're right, there's definitely risk in it. I mean, every step that you take is going to have some variance of risk, whether it be a 1% risk or a 90% risk. But when you take a look at those various risks, you then also assess, if I really want to try this and there's a 65% failure rate, if I do fail, what would I learn from that and what would I lose from that? And that's another risk you have to weigh out. True story, I have a number of restaurants in the Midwest. Mm-hmm. And when we bring new managers into our restaurants, one of the best things or favorite things I like to do is to go up there to them and I'll say, I hope you fail sometimes this year. And they look at me very perplexed. Why would he say that? Why would he want me to fail? And then I'll respond, because if you don't try something new, we'll have not done anything new. So I'm expecting to try new things, and you're going to learn on things that actually improve. And you're also going to learn that some of the things that you try, you failed at it. But it means that we're still striving for something outside the norm.
It's actually very interesting. Just a couple episodes ago, we spoke with Bob Volpe, who runs accountancy, helping with accountancy of franchise businesses. And I know that you have a big chain of restaurants. Mm-hmm. And we discussed this freedom of experimentation in franchise. I know it's not exactly, maybe it's part of the vision. Let's try something new. But how does it work in your case? Like, how much of this operational freedom do your people have, and how it connects to the vision? Because it's actually pretty interesting. Because if you have this overarching vision, then you have with smaller visions. You said every team needs to have its own vision. You know how our motto is what works and what doesn't in the world of business operations, but like in practice. So tell us about example of your chain. How is this responsibility for different parts of vision split?
All right. So my restaurants are franchises. So we do have a franchisor, and of course they have an operations manual we must abide by. But my vision for my team is, whether it be on the marketing side, how do we capture new clients using marketing technology that still obeys the policies and foundations set up in the operations manual? Or how do we have better customer engagement? What have we not done? We did something very interesting in one of our restaurants a couple of years back. I was telling the manager there about a phrase I once learned, and it was cassava. And the term cassava, we would say this to customers as they're walking out the door, and we'd be like, cassava, cassava. And they'd like, what are you saying? Cassava stands for come again soon, bring others. So we started saying that phrase.
In what language?
In English. It was just an acronym. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's English. Right. But it's an acronym, and it stands for come again soon and bring others. Cassava.
Okay.
So we literally, our manager said at this location, said, I'm going to do that. I want to see what kind of reaction I get from my guests. He had his team doing that. And within a few weeks, we actually had other guests coming into order who were saying cassava on their way out the door because it was catchy to them, and they finally found out what it meant. And I can't tell you if we actually raised sales or not there. I didn't do the measuring on that I should have. But our team had a great time. We had customers having a great time. So what is customer engagement worth in this scenario that cost us absolutely nothing to improve the engagement with our customers?
Okay, it's a great story, and one with I'm sure Marian, if you gave him the data, he could crunch it and give you exactly the the details. But it's kind of also an interesting one, because it does show that there is an operating manual which tells you exactly what should be done, and there is this kind of soul of the company that cannot be written down. I guess this is the vision. We have a
Gray, gray zone.
Not a gray zone. Marian is a biologist, right? And he's talking about blood and bones and tissues. And I think what you're talking about here, James, is the soul of the company, which cannot be placed anywhere and measured and weighed, even though some people claim that soul weighs 21 grams. But it's
not me.
No. It's this is the soul that needs to be there for an organization to thrive, and everyone has to have their own bit in it, like you said, an engagement, right?
Right. And you mentioned something very interesting there, because we know it's not just about growth and profitability and numbers. It really is about a culture. It's about an environment. It's about something that people have a buy-in. And so what's interesting to me, I was reading, there's a quote in the King James Bible. It's Proverbs 29:18. And it actually talks a little bit about this. And it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Or in other words, the people succumb to being ineffectual and without purpose. So I found that very intriguing to read that passage and find out that, wow, it's saying that if people don't have someone leading and guiding them that have a vision to say, hey, we're going to go from point A to point B, and here's how we're going to get there. For most people, if they don't have an individual or a team ahead of them providing that vision, they become lost. They just don't have a great purpose and become ineffectual.
They stay on the tree and chase bananas.
There you go. Yeah, from limb to limb. That's it.
It's about, but actually, it reminds me of a story. When we spoke previously about measuring the fun factor and effectiveness of the fun factor, I think that your approach is, in a sense, healthier. I remember once doing an analysis for the company. They had a big program. It costed a couple of minutes. They wanted to recheck the effectiveness of this program, and I was unfortunate to find out that the program actually, if you analyze it correctly, it had no impact whatsoever on sales, and they were so unhappy about it. But I think your approach. I don't think that it's all meat and bones. It's people need to feel good and want to. I think we forget it very often in running business.
But this is where reality kicks in, because having a vision. We mentioned a few times on this podcast the great quote from Muhammad Ali: "Everyone has a plan until they get hit in the face." Right? And having a vision is all great, but when problems come, when stress comes in a company, this is where a lot of companies lose the vision and start cutting and start behaving almost like automatons. There's knee-jerk responses. How do you ensure that the vision actually survives the stress? Because people are people. Like you said yourself, we are all human beings, and a lot of people under stress, they will react kind of pretty predictably, right? And the first thing that goes is a vision.
Right.
And by the way, yes, Marian just pointed out that the quote is not from Muhammad Ali, but from Mike Tyson. I don't want to get hit in the face. So I thought I'd better mention it.
You are. I'm pretty sure you're correct. I just heard it the other day. I believe it is Mike Tyson. But what's interesting? Having vision is similar to turning the navigation on in your car to go from wherever you are to wherever you want to go. If there's an accident or a water main break or something, you're going to be diverted. but you never keep your eye off the goal. You never keep your eye off of where you actually want to end up. And you may be late, you may be sidetracked, but if you continue to have a realistic idea of where you want to get to, you find your way back on course. And I think we've seen that through recessions. We've seen that through COVID. One of the things we learn through those processes. And we also know that a vision has to have some flexibility to it. As I said earlier, if you don't continue to measure it and evolve that vision, then you're going to lose relevancy based upon factors around you that you have no control over.
No, absolutely. And what I kind of was aiming at is that if I may be permitted a different analogy, like Han Solo, the first thing he did when his spaceship was boarded, he dumped the cargo, right? When people, I'm just worried, and I've seen this happen a couple of times, that people still go in the same direction. They just start shedding. They start shedding the culture. They start shedding the people that may be necessary at some point. But
I think if I may defend the vision, I know that you don't like when I answer your questions. I'm sorry, but this time I feel like because I've seen it and I mentioned it, like these people were sticking to KPIs. This is I think the biggest killer when you have when the only thing that counts is your KPIs. And this is something that also James said. Vision needs to be repeated multiple times so it's embedded.
Right.
You shouldn't be able to shed it so easily.
Right.
Unless your KPIs, you are the only thing you're responsible and the only thing you're accountable are your KPIs.
And I think we're reaching the end of the world if the data guy is talking about values. KPIs as if it's something bad. I mean, we are really in the end of days. But yes, no, I think the vision is. Yes, let's invest in that business because it's going to be needed very soon. I think vision is absolutely important, and we've had experience with companies, as I said, that had no vision and was pretty horrible to work with them. Although some of them, by distribution of probability, some of them will succeed, and unfortunately, well, fortunately for them, but and there will be some companies that have great vision but will not succeed. But it's about, I guess, kind of to put it all in practical perspective, it's about shifting that probability to the right and getting those results effectively, painlessly, and with great experience for everyone. Because I noticed that you do speak a lot about the human aspect of business. I think it's also very, very, very important to have not a humane business rather than just numbers.
Efficient.
It does. Well, if you look at almost every business there is, whether it be a service industry, manufacturing, whatever it is, there's three key ingredients that make up a business, whether it's a good business or bad. You have people, you have product, and you hope you have profit, right? It takes all three to accomplish all three. And if you take one of those equations and mistreat that equation, let's say you have the right product and you're making a good profit, but you mistreat the people part, then at some point in time, that's going to deteriorate the other two. Yeah. So it's a perfect triangle in the business world that all three must be handled appropriately.
And so for someone kind of just maybe bringing this to a practical conclusion, for someone who is struggling to build a vision, they have an idea, but they're struggling to build a vision. What would be the advice that you would give to an aspiring businessman? They have a product idea, they have maybe some skills or people who have skills, but they just can't get their head around the vision. How would you advise them to go about it?
If they already have a team around them, I would be seeking my team's opinion and what they believe is a valuable vision out there to cast together. because you do have leaders out there who may not be good at casting a vision alone or by themselves, but because they've surrounded themselves with good people, right there is a natural place to garner the right vision for the team and the company.
Oh, great! The collaborative experience, and I think this is from my roundtables with startup founders who hit this problem of how to maybe communicate the vision. Very often, the problem is they don't really know what they're communicating, and I think you've hit the nail on the head. That very often they're afraid to ask the other people for opinion because they think that they're expected to have the final word, the final answer. So they just afraid to ask those questions. So
Right.
I think that is great advice. I think this is all fascinating, and we've got a really important component of having success in business, which is that of having, communicating, and then executing a vision. We've covered it pretty nicely. I know that people can reach you on LinkedIn, and there are also other podcasts that you've taken part in. So we're going to put links to in the description to the episode, to quite a lot of material where people can hear all about that. Are there any other kind of thoughts that you wanted to share with us or summarize?
Well, one thing too that just came to mind is when you start talking about when you're talking about leadership casting a vision and maybe getting hung up on not being able to do so. I would say when a leader fails to look to their people for guidance and direction, that's when leadership turns into a dictatorship, and most likely that's not going to work.
Oh, that's true. We just have to look at some countries today. Great. Thank you very much for sharing all this with us. I think it was a great episode and quite a lot to think about. Also for us, because we're as with every kind of episode, we've learned quite a lot. And as always, let's hope it was of use to someone.
Thank you for listening.
Also, don't miss the next one, where we'll be talking about employee onboarding and how to structure processes to make this easier. We'll focus on the hospitality sector, and our guest will be Robert Rain, Human Resources Executive Director of Ohana at Ono Hawaiian Barbecue.
Subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or visit bdr.show to find out more about future episodes and guests. You can also check out Cognition.llc for more information on Cognition Shared Solutions, our services, and other events hosted by us.
For now, it's thank you from myself, Artur Guja, and my co-host, your friendly neighborhood data guy, Dr. Marian Siwiak.
Thank you and goodbye.